images, and it will be able to return, whether it's a face or a tattoo, any identifiable trait on a human, they will be able to give you a return in seconds. In seconds. There won't even be an investigative process. It'll be plug this in and it'll find it.
Google Lens already does that. They already have that, and Grok has a camera mode which will do that too. The only thing is they have the settings turned down because they don't want to have individual privacy. The computer's totally capable of finding any image of any person. It's been tuned to where it won't do it on purpose because they don't want to scare you. If everyone knew that Elon's cars were literally running like a basic camera police state around the country, if the CIA wanted the information on those Tesla things that you've noticed have not been burning down recently, that he could have given them that information. It's in the computer. It knows it. One last thing, I'd really like to get into this AI in the future with you on a longer format, but it's really important. I'm trying to save humanity here. I called in Alex Jones back in 2019 and called for this before COVID popped off and confused everyone. Every other issue is basically deck chairs on the Titanic, including Epstein. But when it comes to the face stomping people and that being a race issue, it shouldn't be a race issue. If you stomp on someone's face on the ground and you're not even actively in that fight and you're a third party, that's attempted murder. I think that would put a stop to that. I love you, man. Thanks. And by the way, the whole AI thing, we can do nothing, that's a psyop. This is the new normal. It's not too late. We could do something about it, but they're paralyzing everybody by using the phrase that they used in Star Trek, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated.
Well, here's the difference.
The day it's too late is the day you can't turn off the computer. That's the day it's too late.
Well, and maybe we've already crossed that threshold to some degree.
I don't believe it.
To some degree, we have with cell phones. But I understand what you're saying. There's still room for debate. There's still room to correct course. We're not in the AI abyss yet. The only thing I would say, and I thank you for the call, the difference between what you're describing and what I'm describing is, yes, do we have the technology, facial recognition, and all this other stuff to say, like the example with the Tesla car videos, to take that image and plug it into some sort of an algorithm to produce the likeness and give you a candidate that says, here's potentially who this guy is in the picture. But there's still a process there. There's still a process there. It still has to run through the process that takes time of gathering all the images. There's still a process. What I'm talking about is when we reach the level of quantum computing and AI, everything from there is exponentially sped up. So imagine human evolution, if you believe that, but let's just use this as an example. I mean, there has been human evolution. It's not the lies that they tell us. We didn't evolve from a squirrel turd or whatever, but obviously we've evolved over time with technology. But that's like a process. So it's like you can see it, whatever age you've been on this earth, it's like you can see technologically how humans have evolved in a 30-year process, a 50-year process. Once you hit the age of AI and quantum computing, that process, that entire process now happens in 10 seconds. So it's like once you've crossed that threshold, it's over. There's no going back because everything happens so fast that by the time you try to stop it, it's already done. That does it for the American.
Gentlemen, we have called you together to inform you that we are going to overthrow the United States government.
Leading a frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order, it's Alex Jones.
You still think that jet fuel brought down the World Trade Center? Does anybody else see a problem here? If the government has nothing to hide, why are they...
Questions you're not allowed to ask. Why did the owner of the World Trade Center get maximum insurance against terrorist attacks 6 weeks prior to September 11th? Why did the owner have breakfast in the towers every morning except for September 11th? The day before September 11th, Rumsfeld gave a press conference where he talked about trillions of dollars missing.
Our financial systems are decades old. According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
Why was CNN already there before the attacks with a camera crew ready to film? Why was there an unidentified group of short cells purchased against airline companies right before the attacks? Why was every passenger incinerated in the explosion, but the terrorist passport somehow survived? Why was a report published a year before 9/11 by George W. Bush's administration saying they needed to aggressively expand military power worldwide, but they need a catalyzing Pearl Harbor level event in order to gain public support?
And why did CNN on 2 channels, Headline News, CNN Main, and 2 BBC channels, and local NPR and local emergency radios all report that Building 7 that housed the CIA and FBI blew up from explosives planted by Larry Silverstein. And then Larry Silverstein, a year later, in a documentary for PBS, narrated by Kevin Spacey, said, yeah, we wanted to blow it up because we thought it might fall over on its side, even though no steel building had ever fallen from fire until the 3 that day, we're told. So we made the decision to pull it, and we gave the order and watch it come down. And in mainline demolition nomenclature parlance language, pull it is what they call a controlled demolition. Why was NORAD running drills of hijacked jetliners flying to the World Trade Center and Pentagon, as well as the Capitol that morning? You say, well, a plane didn't hit the Capitol. That's because the Air National Guard out of the Dakotas, stationed over that area of Pennsylvania on rotation, got an order from the Air Force General. He disregarded orders to not shoot down Flight 93 that was beelining for the U.S. Capitol. No, there was no let's roll. None of that happened, according to my sources. But it's a nice story. Oh, and who was the Prime Minister of Israel on 9/11? Working with the U.S. neocons, Wormser, Fife, Pearl, Wolfowitz, Cheney, Rumsfeld, Benjamin Netanyahu. Yeah. And I smell a new 9/11 coming. I don't know who they're going to blame it on. We know the different pre-programmed groups. But the globalists are still failing on every front. And they always give you a crisis. Will it be a mass power outage? Will it be a cyber attack? Will it be a suitcase nuke? Will it be a group of illegal aliens demonstrating being shot up by a Trump supporter, supposedly? All right. I've been kind of assessing the broadcast, and overall, great guests, great callers, great reports, analysis. We're doing a pretty good job. But I tend to pick a big topic a lot of days and just really whole hog on that. And then that's the detriment of all the other important things we could be covering. So here's what I'm telling myself on air. I'm also reporting it to you, but I'm talking to myself right now, because I've been meaning to do this for a while, and I'm not doing it to the extent I should. I mean, I do all this preparation and probably cover 20% of what I'm ready to cover, and this stuff has to be covered. So I pledge to you to do my best. We'll do deep dives on things as well on a routine basis, but I can always supplementally do special reports on those things to make sure it gets out. But I've got to hit all of this. Robert Barnes is joining us in the next hour to talk about the ongoing Epstein firestorm, the Crossfire Hurricane, seditious conspiracy, treason of Obama with Trump's top lawyer. He is the best. It's not the lawyers we always usually hear are the best. For everybody I talk to, government, private, you name it, he's about the best there is. David Schoen has looked at the laws and says that Obama can be charged and can be stripped of immunity despite the Supreme Court ruling. We'll be looking at that with Robert Barnes. I was already wanting to get him on the show when there was a bunch of articles yesterday. Alex Jones's former lawyer says Candace Owens is in deep trouble and stuff like that. That's not me rushing to, and I don't know, I totally agree with Robert on that. I mean, I think Candace has a right to say what she wants about Macron's creature, whatever it is, that did start dating him when he was 14. Just a lot of weirdness. And, you know, whether Big Mike's a man or woman, or whether Macron's wife is a man or woman. I mean, if I want to say that she's a tooth fairy, or it's a tooth fairy, I should be able to say that. But he'll probably get some into that. In fact, we'll just try to get Candace Owens on. I know she usually comes on if we ask. I'd like to get her take on all this. But I just want to say, in general, it's controversial speech that needs to be the most protected. But we'll see what Barnes says. He's a smart lawyer. But that's not my reason he's on. The planets have aligned like that. I've not really talked about the Candace Owens thing since they sued her 3 or 4 days ago. So now they just kill your name, censor you, shut you up, and then create a straw man of your identity, and then use that new avatar they've created to actually use you, the new fake you, to go out and hurt society. See, they don't just silence you, they steal your identity. And they know exactly what they're doing. So let me now, that's the general sermon for the day, but I'm going to get more into what's really happening with AI and the specifics at level 1, how it's going to collapse civilization. You're told it's going to take your job. You're told that's not even secondary. That's not even the 3rd or 4th issue in order. No. By its very nature, it renders you a jellyfish. And by its very nature, it takes over all the infrastructure and power, literal power, electricity. And there's no debate about Eric Schmidt at Alphabet and the rest of them saying AI by 2035 will need 100 times the power we currently have in the U.S. And the numbers vary. And by 2030, it'll need 40 times. So you're told you can't have a car, you can't have an apartment, you can't go on vacation, you can't have air conditioning, it's bad for the earth. But AI, we're told, has to have unlimited power. And all the rules and all the regulations that apply to you don't apply to it. Oh, they're going to have their own nuclear reactors, already building them. And they're going to have their own coal power plants, but just for them. And they're going to have, but you don't get it. See, it's all oxymoronic. It all murders logic. Well, just like 2 men can have a baby. That's the litmus test, or there's no X and Y chromosomes. So you can't have power. It's bad for the earth. But we're going to mine all the lithium out of the world with slave labor and all the rest of it and cover all the farmland with solar farms, literally. So AI can track everything you do and control everything you do. And they already have the articles out. AI driving 14 times better than humans. Insurance companies say they may start making it too expensive to be insured for human driving. And then all the new cars already have self-driving software in them. You basically can't even buy them without it. I told you decades ago, once they bring in the self-driving, then they're going to say, oh, it's way safer than human, which isn't even true. And then you just get in the car and it drives you around. And no, you don't need a car anymore. It's all ride share. Just a robo-taxi pulls up. You own nothing and you're happy. Remember that? And you're not going to own your clothes. You're not going to own your phone. You're not going to own your coffin apartment. And you'll have your universal health care and your universal basic income. But with that, you get to go to the robot clinic and you get to get only the drugs they want to give you that are deadly and toxic. And you get all the protein you like. It's just going to be from crickets. And by the way, there was tens of billions of investment in the last 5 years by Tyson and all the big all the big 10 food companies, and everything basically already has bug protein in it, and they have regulations for others to tell you that. And by the way, chitin bug protein is extremely carcinogenic. Side issues, huh? All right, the main transmission really begins now, and I'm going to absolutely cover everything today that I'm about to mention just briefly. Scientists give chilling update on mysterious interstellar object racing through our solar system as they warn it's even bigger than they thought. They've got all these mainline government whistleblowers saying it's a giant alien spaceship. Rare interstellar object the size of Manhattan could be an alien probe, Harvard scientists warn. And I believe this is a bunch of precursor to Project Bluebeam hype. And I want to get dark journalists on in the next few days, producers. Thank you. But I'll be getting into that coming up in more detail. Democrats have yet again hit their all-time lowest poll numbers. It's in all the major polls. The Wall Street Journal has a detailed one of likely voters, the lowest in their history. And that ties into President AOC isn't as far out of reach as it once was. Just like this mayoral candidate who has the Democrat nomination, he will win probably, just like the mayoral Democrat nominee in Minneapolis literally says white people are evil and bad and commit all the crime, and he only cares about Somalia. By the way, we have more Somali lawmakers saying that. We have all of them. I mean, it just basically every major Somali lawmaker, I guess it's a pledge they make on TV that I only care about Somalia and sending money back to Somalia, our homeland. I mean, these people are just something else. Next level garbage. We'll have more on the brain damaged, traumatic brain injury individual who was never at any level near professional football, and I guess was promising in high school. So he was mad at the NFL, reportedly, and then went to the wrong offices and shot 5 people before getting killed. And again, CNN is saying that he is possibly white. So we'll get more into that and how that ties into a bunch of white people getting attacked in Cincinnati last week, and then the media trying to spin it and saying it's racist because it's impossible for black people to gang up on white people because white people are the only people that ever do anything wrong ever in history. And again, I'm covering this from a position not of demonizing black people because the majority of black people aren't doing this. It's how, whether it's Islamists attacking Europeans in Europe or whether it's the open season on white people here, this is hyped up by the media and pushed in the culture like it's a good thing to do. And now the woke police chief has been trying to spin it. But this stuff is just constantly going on. So I want to get more into that. I've got a big stack on the left here and around the Western world openly targeting and sexualizing children, and the phenomenon, and this is done in Europe as well, of convicted sex offenders being able to pay surrogates to have babies for them. And I'm going to warn you when we show you this video of these creatures and what they're doing with this baby, be ready to vomit. Now, it's nothing overtly sexual, but it's obviously they're extremely excited. And I mean, can you imagine the hell for these children? And there are tens of thousands of children every year being adopted by people like this here in the U.S. alone. And remember, from the 60s into the 90s in West Germany, over 30,000 children were purposely placed by the government, working in conjunction with the CIA, with convicted pedophiles to create, quote, a new civilization and to end the nuclear family. Who is Brandon Keith Mitchell, convicted sex offender, viral gay surrogate video sparks concerns about Pennsylvania's adoption laws. And he is a convicted you-know-what. And I know a lot. And the average person, even if they're somewhat informed, is like, what the hell is this guy talking about? It's like, but he's just dead on. He said, we're never going to get it. All the bad insiders are still there. Bongino, Patel, Bondi. They're just giving reports. They're going from meeting to meeting to meeting, racing to this to that. And Trump's being set up to where it'll look like a cover-up. And this has all been brought forward to hype it and get everybody's expectations up because Bondi and Trump actually believe this. And then at the last minute, it'll all blow up in their face. And I'm like, really? How do you know that? He goes, I've seen how they do this over and over again. And he's right, because there's no real evidence of Trump doing anything wrong. What you think if they had that, you think Patel and those guys would cover it up? No way. Bongino, no. I mean, again, if Trump thought there was something in it, he would have been, send it out to all the FBI offices when they raided what the Democrats had in New York. We're acting like, ooh, you can't have this. And the head of the FBI in New York, I'll never give it to you. We're dug in. I'm a Marine. Don't work with Trump. Don't give him this. Please don't throw me in the briar patch. So immediately they send the FBI to D.C. running over to get it. They send it out to all the field offices, and they call back a few weeks later and go, we need to meet with the attorney general, and then she needs to meet with the president. Trump's all over this. And Trump blew up reportedly in the meetings, like, what the? When they were this stuff to him. And it was Comey, Clapper, and Brennan and Bill Barr that have been in control of this file for 20 years. That's true. So just imagine that Trump blows up and just says it's a hoax, move on, meaning a hoax, what's in the files, the files they decided to leave. It looks completely bad until you understand behind the scenes, Trump is blowing up about a lot of stuff and saying, I have my agenda, stay on this. You see him on other topics doing it all the time. But just horrible handling. And he doesn't want to put, his wife through the stuff with the old recycle thing that she was a hooker working for Epstein, which isn't true, at a modeling agency, which was not his modeling agency, it was Trump's. And none of that, we've already heard that 8 years ago. It's not true. So it's stuff like that that's got Trump pissed, and he's been set up from inside the DOJ. Now, if any real evidence comes out, we'll be the first to report it, but that's what I really believe. And so some people say, oh, you're helping him cover up, when all I do is expose the entire agenda of the pedophile globalist network, and I go with the facts lead, that's it. And then you got other people on the Trump train that just say, don't ever even question it, or you're an evil Democrat. Nope, I have a job to do to report the facts, and I will. So that's coming up. And we have the Sydney Sweeney ad that's obviously, got it. So there's been a lot of disinformation surrounding this. And I just call balls and strikes, as you know. We heard last week, the Republicans have done an emergency recess to end Congress because they don't want a vote for the DOJ Epstein files. And then the Republicans joined Democrats in voting to subpoena the DOJ for whatever records they have. So that wasn't true. And Trump at the time was demanding that Congress not go on its regularly scheduled recess that starts in late July and runs through most of August. That's been going on since 1789, because that's when Congress wanted to go back to their constituents when the harvest came in, and they had the fairs and all the business and the farming. That's why we have kids don't go to school in the summer, because they needed to be working on the farms. That's where all this stuff comes from. And there's so many facets before I even get into what's happening in Congress that lie, you've got to get through. Trump has been asking them to not go to recess and to stay in there and approve his nominees and get even more approved. But he says, but if you are going to recess, go ahead and do it so I can get my people in. And then Johnson and Thune came out Monday or over the weekend and said, no, we're going to do this procedure where every 5 days, we come in and say it's in session, but it's really not. So no work gets done, and so they don't get Trump's nominees into judgeships and all the rest of it. But then no work gets done. Mike Johnson and John Thune plan to convene and adjourn every 4 to 5 days to block Trump from making any recess appointments. And now Trump's gone to Grassley and asked him to put pressure on them and the Democrats to not do that. And it's just mind-blowing. Trump to Senate, confirm more nominees before August recess, or don't go on recess. But you turn on CNN, it's, well, Trump wants them to shut down. Mike Lee urges Senate to cancel August recess or allow Trump appointees on his own. And that's what's going to happen, is they're going to get recess appointments for at least a year. And you just had the Article 3 courts trying to block, his U.S. attorneys. I mean, since when do judges get involved in that? It's out of control. So Trump is fighting his supposed own people on this. Here's Senator Mike Lee on it last night.
The negative impact of not clearing the confirmation backlog before the Senate recesses for August extends far beyond the internal operation of the executive branch during the Trump administration. It spills in to the legislative agenda, because the longer they keep us mired in these endless, pointless delays, they're delays designed just to bring about delay itself, the harder it is for us to act on legislative priorities of the Trump administration and of Republicans in the House and the Senate. This is yet another reason why we can't simply ignore these delay tactics, and why it's of such an imperative nature that we clear the confirmation backlog before the Senate recesses. With Senate Democrats coming up with and imposing every conceivable procedural roadblock to a swift confirmation process, we really have no choice but to make sure that we get our work done and to clear the Senate confirmation backlog, which is now up to 144 Trump nominees, before the Senate can think seriously about taking any kind of recess in August. Look, this isn't fun. Members of the Senate very much want to be able to go and do other things, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to finish our work. So here's the deal. We got to end this backlog. We can do it in a number of different ways. One approach might be to stay here until they're all finished, until they've all been confirmed in the Senate. Another option might be, if the Senate just absolutely insists on taking a recess before that's done, then it needs to actually take a recess. Take a recess in a way that would trigger and allow the president to authorize his authority to make recess appointments under the Recess Appointments Clause. But we can't have it both ways. We can't just recess and then take these so-called pro forma sessions every 72 hours, the sole purpose of which would be to prevent the president from making a recess appointment. So Congress needs to either stay here, work, and get the job done, or make way for the president to fill in the gaps. We can't have it both ways. Please tell your senators, clear the confirmation backlog.
Mike Lee is probably, I love Senator Kennedy too, but he's probably the best senator we've got. And Rand Paul's great as well when it comes to really being a patriot and being smart. But he's being nice there, though, and I'm thinking he's being a little too nice. But it's his own party. But then I was thinking, I didn't yell and scream. I mean, I should be. This is 6 after. I want to hit this big story right now. I'm going to get to this more after he leaves us. This is just so illustrative of everything we're facing. So it is one of the most studied compounds by chemists in the last 300 years. It's one of the first isolated compounds put on the periodic table. It's well known what it does, just like cyanide. Sodium fluoride is extremely toxic to all cells, not just in mammals, plants, everything. And until the 40s and even into the 70s, but they phased out, the main poison at the hardware store was sodium fluoride at only a few percentage points in powder, and you would just dust it around entryways and things, and roaches, spiders, anything else that walked through it would die. So you don't need to be a pathologist or have a degree in chemistry to know that if you eat sodium fluoride out of a can of bug poison, you're going to get real sick, and if you eat enough of it, you're going to die. And it's highly carcinogenic, gives you cancer, everything else. But that's not what they started putting in the waters at the end of World War II. They took sodium fluoride and turned it into hydrofluorosilicic acid. That is the second strongest acid after sulfuric acid and is thousands of times per gram more deadly than sodium fluoride. And then is an accelerant or adjuvant to pass the blood-brain barrier and takes every other toxin and supercharges it. I've had the heads of major university chemistry departments on many times, like Dr. Conant, who's advisor to RFK Jr. So it is established that what is put in the water at the levels it's in there causes massive IQ reductions, cancer, and